Janelle, what you stated was important pertaining to your situation was having to realize, and there are really steps to it. Like there is the forgiveness piece. There's the one going to that person and letting them know what they did, right? That's biblical.
Because I did that, because sometimes not saying it is not solving the problem.
Right.
Exactly.
And it wasn't like I was attacking, but it's like, hey, FYI, your behavior, this is how it affected me. I don't know how it was meant, but this is the way I received it. And
right.
Thank God, it came out, it was received well, because I think they heard my heart behind, like I was hurt,
Yeah.
So.
And then the second part to that is if they don't receive it, we're supposed to take somebody else, some other counsel as a witness to it all. And, you try to resolve. But the forgiveness piece, and then another part, Janelle's, what you stated is that there is some internal stuff that we have to dive into when dealing with, especially something that will cause you to put up such a wall and a hate and, this disdain for, church is the institution, again, is flawed. The people, therefore, if the institution is flawed, the people are flawed. And there's something internally that we all got to work on, because when it comes to a point where I know damage, I know, previous hurt, and, maybe some things are just triggers for us. But it does come to a point where in a lot, I'm not going to say in all of them, but, situations where people are probably being, molested, touched and things like that and abused in that way. Not related to that, but I mean, situational as in conversations, somebody talking about you, or they just didn't treat you right. A lot of times that is also a form of a way for God to say, okay, so this happened to you. Now, why is that affecting you in the way that it's affecting you to cause you to run? Like you just run. And I just would like to just tell people, there's an order to it when we're dealing with church hurt. There's an order to do it. It doesn't always mean run just because the situation gets sticky in one particular place. We also have to get to a point where we're like, okay, so exactly why am I here? We got to ask that question. Exactly why am I here? Like if I came here believing that he directed me versus me just coming because I like the choir.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
I like the choir. I like the preacher. I like how he preaches. That don't necessarily mean that that's where God called you to be.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we look at things like that and we ponder, why am I really here? And another thing, we're in a society now, you guys, where the moment you hurt me or make me feel some type of way, I ain't got to put up with it. When did we get to the point where we ain't got to put up with nothing? Like who fed us that mumbo jumbo? That I got to feel comfortable here all the time and I got to be happy here and I don't have to deal with anything that just messes with my peace and da-da-da-da.
Right.
And I think sometimes you don't give the person an opportunity to actually explain it, because how you perceive it is it might be filtered through your offense, through someone who acted like them.
True.
And because I know when I've asked, I'm like, oh, you didn't mean it like that? She was like, no, I love you. I'm like, oh, my bad. Sorry.
Then there's
because you
that.
have this whole thing in your mind and this whole story that's like literally not accurate. And I think that's where the enemy can come in when you don't have, where there's a lack of communication.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
That's why I think giving someone the opportunity to kind of explain it, it's a different story if you tell them and they're like, you tripping. You know what I mean?
Right.
Then, because you still want to honor yourself and your heart. But yeah, I think, and then something else that I was thinking about too, like something else that helped me, because the spirit of offense can come in really quick, right?
Really quick.
Some of the places where you're called, the enemy could, this is how they're seeing you, this is how, and you really want to run the other way without, communicating with them. But I remember the Lord really, I feel like it was like I was compelled by the love of Christ, because it's almost like he held a mirror up. You know what I mean? And he's just like, even if the sin is different, he was just like, do you remember how you were and what I forgave you from? You know what I mean? And I'm like,
that's good.
Yeah, I do. And then, and to remember that no matter, and I'm not trying to down, because people should be held accountable, but at the end of the day, the way that God looks at me is the way that he looks at them. Like they are still a child of God, and I don't want to be the one to disrespect or, you know what I mean? Like do any harm to a child of God. And that's just my accountability, you know, but kind of remembering those things, like, yes, they should be held accountable, but just like he forgave me all this, I'm sure we can go down the list for each of us, right? You know, and so I think those are some of the things that like have like really, really helped, and because it's just God's love that kind of like when you remember how you're forgiven, when you remember all of the bad stuff that you did, and you're like, oh well.
But I think that's a gift too. I know we talked about the gift of forgiveness, but I think the gift of self-reflection is something that a lot of people don't have or just ignore or don't examine. And I think you bring up a good point in the fact of being able to self-reflect on, you know, you're a soul and a body just like everyone else. And you're not the protagonist. Like we think we are, but we're not the protagonist of the story of the Bible.
That's true.
And a lot of times we forget that. So you bring a good point in communication and self-reflection. And you said a mouthful, but I did want to go back to the church hurt specifically and to talk about like the reason why I think we all asked what brought you back is because for me, it's what symbolizes your walk. And I know we keep talking about exalting leaders and things of that nature, but like Janelle said, these are all human beings, all flawed, all sinners. Yet no one has a perfect resume, right? Except for one person. So with that being said, I think a lot of people say that, hey, I got this personal walk with Jesus, but what they really mean is that we have this walk. They're walking with people. So you get so personally offended, and this is no denunciation on your church hurt. I'm kind of speaking in generals, obviously. But people get so offended by their personal people that are walking with God with them that they forget that, like, we were born and died alone. Like this walk is my walk. Like you tell me stuff of what your walk is, but like my path is my path. So that walk has to go through sometimes burning buildings, sometimes hurt, sometimes, you know, these situations that you're affected by, but I'm not affected by, right?
That's good,
so
Mike.
it all changes the perspective of my walk and what I'm supposed to do. Like you said, you guys have the talent, y'all be singing and stuff. I don't have that talent. I'm not singing, so I have no reason to get jealous, right? Like I'm not asking for a solo. If they put me up there for a solo, you're gonna be sorely disappointed. But yeah, I think sometimes we conglomerate our walk instead of really realizing that this is a personal walk and I have personal things that I'm accountable for. And then we get so caught up in other people's walk with us that we start to judge and legalize their stuff instead of the self-reflection part. And then to go to the community, you know, church is sometimes considered, you know, basically a small pond. And people try to be big fish in it, right?
Yes, sir.
So a lot of times these communities, to go back to what you were saying, is a lot of communities want to now personalize the church.
Yes, they do.
To match the community
Yes,
that they have adopted. Instead of trying to be adopted into what God is saying is right and wrong, right? So
Come on, Mike.
that is a whole nother thing when we get into community and why we're attracted to church. We're naturally attracted to fellowship, to being in a village.
Yes, very true.
So when that village hurts us, that is a reason to run or to stay. You know, wherever your fight or flight is. But those villages do exist outside of church, gangs. You know, different communities that identify with certain things. You know. Whatever your small pond is. And it feels good to rise up and start, you know, being a fish that's recognized in your pond. But that's where I think we all talked about the pride starts to seep in and then you start to gobble up small fish because you're a big fish. You know what I'm saying? At some point, the predators are going to prey.
All of that.
And that's where you start to hurt people. And then that's when, you know, then you wonder, and again, to any of these communities, then you start, your message doesn't become the community message, it becomes your individual message.
Right.
One thing I was thinking too is like, as leadership, like you were talking about somebody mad because they couldn't cook the chicken.
Yeah.
And
oh my God.
I mean,
It happens.
It
That's
happens.
a real fight.
Like real life, yeah.
That is a real fight
That
in
is a
churches.
real fight.
Yes.
I've seen it. I've seen it.
Look, I've seen it too, and I've seen everybody skip that chicken and they're like, so it goes better too. But we're talking about something else. And leadership.
Who made this one? Go ahead, I'm gonna go ahead and get this one.
Did you? Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and get this
No,
one.
that one? Okay. Oh yeah. It gets real. It gets real.
That's horrible.
But in leadership, they have to be able to see that people are not meant to be in a certain role. And they have to be able to tell them that. So if your greeters and your ushers are mean, they probably shouldn't be greeters and ushers. I'm just saying though. That's the first people that you come to. So when the people walk in the church and that's the first people, what's your name? You ain't, what's,
Yeah.
Don't nobody want to be bothered with that. I don't want to be greeted with that.
That's
and
it.
So when you have people coming from the world and they're looking at the expectation of they're kind and they're peaceful and they're of God and everybody's loving and then you got that at the front door, some people gonna turn around and be like, I'm cool.
Yeah.
You know, and that's in every arena of church, and I think it's really important to. My son has this group called Vibe Tribe, and it's like, what is your vibe? What is your culture? What is your vibe? When people come, I'm a supervisor at a preschool. When they come to my school, they know that everybody's treated fair, with respect, that everybody's being treated kind. We're not bullying anybody. If you need help, we're going to step up and we're going to help you.
Right.
What is the culture? What is the vibe? So if when we come in here, we're all about love.
Yeah.
You better be loving if you're serving people.
You know, follow the theme. If that's what our theme is,
if that's our culture,
then come on.
Make sure that people are in alignment with that. And if they're not, then we need to have a little class. And we all going to talk about my expectations of you being leadership on my team. Because if you're representing my team, you represent me and the Lord.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So, and that
That's
leadership
good.
has to step up and do that. And we're always trying to be nice. I'm going to nicely tell you the same thing he's going to be right now.
Nicely tell
Nice.
you.
Yeah.
But they don't accept that.
Respectfully.
Right.
Yeah, but they don't accept that either, though. Like, I really genuinely think, and y'all come back at me with this, right? Somebody come back at me with this, because I'm gonna say this, but I'm on the side, but I'm gonna say it. So you have people that really come in and just say, they have a studio in the church and they have like camera people and production, and because that's what I want to do, I'm going to be a part of it, and that's it. Without realizing, wait a minute, well, let's see who you are.
Yeah.
Let's see what you're capable of doing. Let's sit down for a few weeks and do. But it's like, no, this is what I'm here to do. This is my giftings, what I love to do. And like people really do think that, and I say that I'm on both sides of this because I am one that does believe if people are willing to work in ministry, at least allow that. But we have to allow it with, there has to be some type of guidance. There has to be some type of order. There has to be some type of something. And when you try to present that to them, they really just think, no, like, because in my church that had 5 pews in it, anything I wanted to do, I could do it. Because we needed all of y'all to do stuff.
Sound like an only child.
But it's like we come into these because the church is an organization, right? It's this huge institution, no matter whatever size your church is. But things have to be in order. And just because you came in and did it 5 years ago somewhere else for 20 years, we still need to see, are you even called to this?
Yeah.
Right.
You liking to do this is different from you being called to this.
Well, and I think order, like you said, but I think it has to do with honor as well. Because if you're new to a place, or even if you're not, when you come into a place, or like especially church, I feel like submission under leadership and kind of like building things out of a relationship.
Yeah.
because there's a reason why.
Right. Right.
You ain't, you know what I mean? And
Right.
I know for me, well, maybe I should, well, I'll just share it.
Do it, Janelle.
So I know I have a prophetic gift, right? And the Lord
course.
really speaks really clear. And so when I see things at church, I'm like, this was a while ago, but I'm like, thus saith the Lord, because thus saith the Lord. But with new leadership, I'm like, but I'm telling them, but they're not taking it. And my friend had to realize, well, why don't you come at an angle out of relationship? Because they don't know you. They don't trust you, which is, it's, you know what I mean? And things like that, I had to understand, like, oh, it's not. Like, they have to know me, know my heart, which is, I think, a boundary and a precaution at church.
Yeah.
You know, because we're serving people.
Yeah.
We're putting things out to people, and there's a care and responsibility to that. And so it's gonna take time. You know, sometimes it's not. Sometimes the Lord can speak to a leader and be like, I don't know you, but I know you're supposed to be in this. But there are other times where you really have to do things out of relationship. With they have to know you. You have to. I mean,
I agree
you don't even know them either. But it caused me to humble myself. Like, hold up, humble yourself, right? Because and it for me it helped. And there wasn't an offense. I'm not saying everyone's gonna be like that, but it had to do with honoring.
For sure.
Honoring the house,
For sure.
honoring the leadership, honoring the process, and it's not gonna be like that.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But then again, I didn't grow up the only child, so I don't know about other people.
I don't know nothing about that. But yeah, I think for the most part, as a victim, you guys, this whole time we were talking about this, I was thinking in my head, right? This is gonna be so stupid, but if you know me, being embarrassed and stuff like that is not really my zhish. I don't like my zhish.
Okay.
That's not my splat. I don't like to be embarrassed.
Zhish and splat? I'm gonna take
them.
I
love them.
Please take it, because I took it. But so I don't like to be embarrassed, right? And when we were doing, coming up with the ideas for the show, I was like, man, I wish I had a story of like church hurt, like wanting to just share. Not that I wanted to be hurt, but I just wanted to be able to give to the conversation.
I want to be a part.
I want to get hurt too.
I want to be relevant in the conversation. So I know it's going to be stupid though when I say it. So I have a church hurt story, right?
Uh-oh.
So where was I? I was in college in Texas, a small town, Corsicana, Texas, right? And we went to church a few times as like a teenager, you know, my family. We were there. I wasn't like been in church, but they've always been like really big churches, big productions, stuff like that. So I'm in this little town, and my friends were church goers. They were like church kids. So we all decided to go to church one day. Mind you, we're in the country, therefore everything in the country will be country. So we go to this church, about the size of this room, probably, maybe a little bit bigger. We go to this church, and here I am, this college student thinking and I walk in here with all these old heads. You know, I'm just thinking like, shoot, okay, well, let's just get this over with, because we're going to go eat after this. Because I love the Lord at that level in my life, you know. So I'm sitting there, you guys, and I'm just sitting there minding my business. I don't know if they were singing or if the pastor was up talking, and I was chewing gum. And I was just chewing my gum. You know, I ain't bothering nobody. Honey, if this usher didn't come up to me out of the blue and inched herself down my aisle.
5 people in the room. No one noticed. Yeah, right.
And then be like this.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there like, I don't know what this is. I had never experienced this before. Didn't know what this was, but I'm sitting there like, so at this point I start to look at her, and y'all know I've always been a cool person. I've always just been like this chill person, but at this point I'm like, what is going on? So my girlfriend next to me is like, give her the gum. And I'm like, no. Well, no. Because I didn't get it, y'all. Like, my point of the story is here you have somebody visiting your church that's never been in this environment, this type of environment before. And although you don't know that, you do know you don't know me, you've never seen me, but how you approached me was in a way that was offensive to me. And then I'm a young kid. So
you said college?
College. I was like 19.
That's the first time it happened to you?
That was the first time. I'd never been to a small church where you couldn't chewing gum. Like, it was new to me. Sorry. Now I know. I know now. I know now.
She learned.
But I was so embarrassed. And I'm like, I spit it out in her hand because that's what she wanted.
Yeah.
But
Did she have the white gloves on?
she did.
Yeah.
So I say that to say this. I knew it was gonna be stupid. Like,
It's not.
That was your church hurt?
Yeah.
Like that with
It's okay.
Like, maybe I don't think I don't think it's church hurt because it happened to me at like 8, 10, 12.
He kept doing it.
One of them was my grandma, and she didn't just do this. She was pop out. So for me, I'm like, oh, it happened to you at 19? That's the first time
at 19.
And all she did was this?
That's what she did in front of everybody. And stood in the middle of the folks
scooting down
behind.
the scooting down the
She came down the road.
Yeah, that's hilarious though.
Came down the road. So
I can relate.
It's important, I think.
Did she have a finger up when she did it?
All I saw was this. She came, I swear, bruh, she came out of nowhere. Out of nowhere.
He was like, she ain't coming for me. Let me scoot back because she gonna go past me.
I was engaged and didn't even realize my people were like, scooting back to let her come through. I just get this white thing right here. And I'm like, what is going on?
Why are you here? Yeah.
Right,
Why
what
are you here? What's going on? But, okay, so my point was, we, the church, cannot approach everybody the same way. And I think it relates to even you stating relationship versus like leadership or whatever. We have to learn that everybody is different. And although there may be a format in this house that has to be followed, I still need to take the time to figure out how to approach you on that. So sometimes the most polite way is the best way to start off. Then once I see that's not really working with you, we can do this differently. But I think something that we church people, I don't care how mature you are in the church, I don't care if you just freshly in it or whatever the case is, we have to get rid of that old thing that we've had on us and that we've been taught and we've just seen, that we can just deal with anybody in the church the exact same way. Like, we literally have to take the time to, and sometimes just let stuff go. Like, let the gum go. Next time I show up, check me out the door, baby. We don't do gum. Or when I'm leaving out, baby, we don't chew gum during service. Something like that. But man, that did hurt me because
You feel better now?
I do. I'm free. I'm free now. But on the other hand of that, so there's two sides, right? There's always, two sides, and then there's that real truth. There's a side that the church has to take, and then there's a side that individuals, visitors, newcomers, or people that have just been in church that end up getting hurt. There's this thing that we have to sometimes do. I am one that I'm an advocate for not reacting in your emotions. I'm an advocate for that. Like, I strongly believe that your emotions go up within seconds and they go down in a completely different place in the next few seconds. So making rash decisions in that moment and not taking back, and that's why the Bible says, approach the person. Take somebody with you. Let's talk it out, because a lot of times your first reaction or your first emotion or your first feeling is not quite true. It's not the true one. And so I think, and again, I think Janelle or Mike, one of you said, is that sometimes we just have to take a moment back reflect on it, and then kind of move forward. But those initial feelings of, now hurt is hurt, right? Blatantly, hurt can just be hurt. But I go back to, well, who said you can't be hurt?
Right.
And Mike, that was you when you said that about, my walk is my walk. My walk includes planned hurts.
Right.
It includes planned joy and planned, all these things are included in my walk. And I love how, Jonah? And the Bible says God, he sent him a planned well. He sat in a planned well, like planned out. This well's for you. Get in this mouth. You see what I'm saying? Like, there are like planned just hiccups that have to occur in our life. And so I would just want to urge people to, let's try not to be so, I won't tell you not to be sensitive, because sensitivity is a thing. But let's try not to operate so swiftly in our emotions that waver so much. Because then we end up doing something and we end up allowing a wall. Walls, y'all. Walls in our life, in our mental life, in our, just in our spiritual and relational life. Walls they cause damage. And it's like what you stated, I can forgive you, but I don't have to forget it. And that helps me not to build up this wall that causes, it's just this hateful wall that it becomes hard to penetrate for anything. And you just grow it, you just grow it, you just grow it. But we do have to get to a point, you guys, where we take a step back. People are going to hurt you. People are going to hurt you. You're going to hurt yourself. You're going to hurt people. It comes with life. It comes with our daily activities. It just comes. And so when dealing with church hurt specifically, it is important that you just reflect for a moment. You pray. You bring somebody else in on the conversation if need be, so that you don't damage yourself. Because I think a lot of times with a lot of church hurt, I'm not talking about all of them, but with a lot of them, I think that we damage ourselves even more by our reaction and how we just roll with whatever something may be. Instead of actually doing the harder work. It's harder work to deal with it. I know.
Yes.
Like, I don't want to sit and talk to you because you pissed me off.
Right.
I don't want to have this conversation with you because, now at this point, I feel some type of way about you.
Right.
All of these things. And so it's easier to fly. It's easier to take flight. But we have to do the hard work, have the conversation, allow the person to have their say, to apologize. And then if they don't, even if they don't apologize, you work on forgiving.
Right.
And because the forgiving is for you. It's not, I don't really care if we're not cool like that. I don't too much care if you forgive me or not.
Right.
Right. The forgiveness piece is for you. And so, you guys, we are human. We are the church. There's a whole panel of church right here. We are human. We're flawed. We don't get everything right. Sometimes we're just having a bad day. Sometimes I ain't quite worked out that gossip spirit off of me yet. Sometimes, just all of these things haven't quite been worked out in me yet. But we have to have, forbearance for people. We have to have a grace on people to even jack us up sometimes. How harsh, that sounds crazy, but it is a biblical concept that we have to have grace on people that jack us up and mean us no good. And sometimes you got people in the church that literally don't mean you no good. Because they no good. But that's not your place to focus on.
But set the boundary up. Protect
Set-
yourself.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just saying.
That's good.
But don't. I do want to follow up on what you said. Don't let the sensibilities, like you said, create a wall. Don't let the sensibilities drive your walk away from God. Don't
'Cause
let
it's your
somebody's
walk.
right. Don't let your sensibility, what you're sensitive of. So, and that's part of the
That's
hard work
good.
that you said,
Yeah.
is that when you confront these situations, let's take the people out of it, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what Pastor has been talking about, is the
That's good.
human doll, the marionette behind the doll is the problem. So if you take the
Yes,
person out of it, you have to deal with this spiritual situation that's at war with you. And then what makes it even harder is the fact that sometimes you start to see the common denominator, and it's you.
Sometimes.
If you done ran from 18 churches,
Well, sometimes.
and it's because every time, you know, the pastor brings up Ephesians or the pastor brings up Old Testament, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear
You
you.
get triggered.
I hear you.
Like, I'm using general things, but you know what we talking about. If you run from a church every time you win, or you run from a situation in the world every time you win, you can't go to the gas station because of something. You are the common denominator.
Child,
So
you better
now
preach.
you have to start reviewing yourself, and now you're not sensitive to something. You have a root problem
Oh, come on, Mike.
that now is blocking you from going to get fellowship and forgiveness and forgiving people and all these fruits of the Spirit that we should be constantly working on. So that was something that was...
Because now you're taking me somewhere, sir. Now we're going somewhere, sir. And I don't even know if we should be going here. But as you stated, if you mentioned Ephesians, so then we have to realize that you have these forces, right? We have these forces that are sitting up there or back there or next to us or whatever. And yes, and they're just like, yeah, get mad. Yeah, just, you know, like egging it on. They're egging the situation on. And it's like, yeah, make them matter. Make them matter. You know, go ahead.
I was going to say, I was actually going to say this example, but it was at a, what is it? Rehearsal for worship rehearsal, right?
Okay, yes.
I was there for another reason. But I was sitting there and I seen a prophetic vision, and it was literally little demons or whatever, like playing tricks and games. So like one person's turned this way and it, you know, taps the shoulder and it thinks the other person, like you've seen those cartoons like that, but in the spirit though.
Yes.
But it was in the spirit, and it caused, because worship is so important, I believe, at a church, but it was causing division, it was causing offense, it was causing confusion, it was causing, is it dissension? I don't know, whatever it is. To everybody didn't like each other.
Yeah.
But nobody's seen it, but they seen the person and not, like you said, the force or the spirit behind it. And that's something that I was thinking about as we're all talking. The enemy's plan is to divide and conquer, right? Some churches you shouldn't be at, but it's a plan, right? For you to be out of there, or I mean, you probably should if sometimes these things are going on, or even within the person. But it's always something spiritual that's happening.
Oh yeah.
And then it's reflected in the natural, and you know we can't see. We're hating each other instead
good.
of hating the enemy, right? So.
Pay attention to the things not seen.
Yes.
Like seriously, like the distraction is the visible. That's just a distraction to make you focus on the visible. When all of these things and all of these roles are being played that we cannot see. And so now I'm looking at you like, you did it.
Right.
And
the enemy's like, yeah.
And you're just like, and you're thinking in your mind, like, I don't even know why I did that. Like, that ain't something I normally would do. Like, I don't even know what just happened. But it doesn't matter now. I have lost focus on everything. And now I have magnified you in your offense and all of this. And it's a trip. Okay.
Yeah, that's for...
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm going to piggyback on that because there were some situations where I left the church and I knew I wasn't supposed to be there anymore because God was pushing me to go somewhere else. But I wanted to stay because I liked the people, whatever the reason. I felt comfortable there.
Yeah.
And so there's times where it was time for me to go, but I didn't. And then when I left, I was like, oh, okay.
Right.
And sometimes we don't always listen when God's telling us something.
Well, there's that.
So there is those times where I needed to go.
Yeah.
But sometimes I didn't want to go.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all about knowing your purpose too, and knowing
Right.
sometimes you've done all you came to do.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Sometimes you're there and you've already done everything
It's
that God
done.
has for you to do, and you're still trying to stay there. But
Right.
He really
Yeah.
has to move you somewhere else so you can do something else. But,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
We talked about that. Assignment is up.
Yeah,
Your
yeah.
assignment can really be up
Yeah.
somewhere. And I think it all boils down to it. Church hurt again. It's very real. It's
Before you close, sorry.
yeah.
I just wanted to piggyback on what you said. Yeah, I agree. And if you're in a church where you're not growing,
You just there for the kick.
there's some
You
lack.
just there.
You're not being made uncomfortable to grow.
Right.
There's something blasphemous going on.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be clear, people out there in the comments, I'm not telling you to stay. We're not telling you to stay.
No.
Like, all we're saying is make sure you review and analyze your situation.
That's good.
Right.
And one more thing to go back to, I know a lot of times we say forgive and not forget. A lot of people use that, and I do agree with the sentiment. But let's be clear about the sentiment. Don't say I forgive and don't forget because you're allowing yourself to hold on.
Right.
Forgiving is forgiving.
Yes, it is.
If you're cleaning the slate, you're cleaning the slate. We're not all good at that.
We
A lot of us are very good at not forgetting, though.
Yes.
So all the not forgetting part of that sentiment means is I'm not going to rob the same bank a second time to get caught
Yes.
again. I'm not going to keep going to this person
Boundary.
that is, verbally abusing me, physically abusing me to get beat up again and expect him to do something different.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, sir.
But I'm going to forgive them and leave.
Yes,
and
sir.
put myself in a situation that is more healthy. Right? So that's what forgive, but I'm not going to forget means. Not I forgive you and then you went to take out the trash and I brought up your cheating behavior, or you was talking to that girl, or you was
Come on,
any
sir.
of those situations,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Whatever the case is. If you're not over it, you have not forgiven.
Exactly.
Right? Let's be clear about forgive but not forget.
No, you're right.
Okay.
You're
Sorry.
absolutely
Now we can
right.
wrap.
Okay. And we'll be back. No. Mike, we're done. It's a wrappy though. We thank you guys so much for joining us. We appreciate you. We love you. Please like, subscribe, comment. You guys comment. We want to talk back. We want to even bring your comments to the show and recap things. What we're going to be doing, as you guys can see, Selena is not with us. And so she won't be with us for the rest of the month. But if you check out IG, every week on IG, we will be doing a recap of the shows. The panel will be on there, those that can be on there, and Selena as well. And we'll just recap shows that we have been doing. So please join us, you guys. Please like us, or even say you don't like us. Just say something. I'm okay. My feelings don't get hurt. Love you guys. Holla.